So this is the UV video. Let's quickly jump right into our UVing things. First of all, I want to show you guys how to set up the reference image as we talked about really quickly. So add the bitmap as we learned in the first video in modeling, and then maybe add this image here, add it to the geometry, click it so it shows in the viewport, and then we can make on the modify panel, there is a thing or a modifier called UV map. You want to click that, and the problem here is, let's see if I can make this more visible. Here, let's delete this. Yes. So the problem is, if I create a plane and attach the material to it, then the image I applied to that plane will be distorted depending on the aspect ratio of the image and the ratio or the proportions of the plane I added the image to. And we can fix it very quickly by adding a UV map modifier to this plane, and there we have it. Here we want to check bitmap fit. There is this button here. If you click it, you can select the image you want to fit your UV map to. So we select the same image as we applied to the geometry, like this, and then it will automatically fix our UVs for it. So now it's proportional, as you can see, but because the plane is much longer than our reference image, then that's because we have these two extra things here. But let's quickly fix that. I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Let's convert this into an editable poly, select the unnecessary edges or polygons, delete them quickly. We select the edges, and there is an option here called preserve UVs, which means if I move this edge, then the texture will, or the UV will come with it. So there you go. But if you're not checking this one, then it's just going to stretch. Okay, so let's check it here and set up our reference image quickly. And there you go. It's what I did for the other tools, or I mean the other videos where I use references. Just do this every time, and then it works. So this is how you use the UV map modifier. So before jumping into UVing the whole character, let's talk about what UVing is first. Basically, what it is turning a 3D geometry into 2D space. So you unfold the geometry and the surface into a flat 2D image. The way you can think about it is, maybe, let's say this is an orange, and if you would cut the orange in half or peel off its outer layer, then you might get something similar to this, the two sides of the orange. Here you have the cut that you made with the knife, and then if you grab those two half pieces and put it on the table and flatten them out, you might get something like this. These are the two halves. So what you did basically with the orange is unfolding the 2D or the 3D object into this 2D space. Don't worry about all these modifiers and windows, we will talk about those. I just want to show you the basics of unfolding and unwrapping and what it is. And you can do the same thing with more complex things like this t-shirt or pullover or hoodie. Basically, if you saw anytime a pattern that designers or fashion guys use, they have this kind of cutout things or cutout shapes that you cut into the fabric and then you cut it out and then you sew it together, and then you have the, you know, pullover or the t-shirt. So basically here we have the cuts, the seams on the pullover or the t-shirt here, and that will result in, we have the back side here, we have the front here, and we have the two arms here. So as you can see, it's the seam, and right next to it there is the polygon, and it also shows up here. And if you select the other polygon on the other side of the seam, then it will appear here. So we have the cut, and then it's unfolded into 2D space. So now if I draw a monkey here or something, or a crocodile, then it will show up where those polygons are. So if I draw the monkey here, then it will be visible up here. Okay, so you can even do it with a face. I don't know if you guys ever seen a rubber mask or something that you know, in bank robbery films the burglars or the thieves use. You can unfold those as well. It's a bit more complicated than the previous examples, but you know, it's really similar. So we have a cut here in the back, as you can see. So these two sides of the face or the neck can come into this space, and then we have the ears separated here, and you know, just the rest of the face flattened out into the 2D space. So that's about it, basically what UVing is. I will show you a bunch of the tools I used during the UVing process, and then we will go over how I UV'd the whole character. And I hope that by the end of this video you will get a basic understanding or a solid understanding of what UVing is and how to approach it. So let's jump in. So basically what I always do when I start unfolding something or UVing it is, you know, just you have to apply this modifier here from the drop down. It's called Unwrap UV. And let's talk about the selection first. So we have vertex, edge and polygon. It's the same as in the modeling section. So I can go here and select the vertices that makes up this geometry. I can also select the edges, of course, or the polygons here. I can select one of the polygons, and with this I can grow the selection. That's useful, really. And then you can shrink it down. With this you can tell the software to ignore the back-facing polygons. So if I select with the rectangle here and then go to the back side, these polygons won't be selected. So that's useful if you want to UV like that, but if you don't like it, you can turn it off, and then your selections will go over to the other side of the model as well. Here you can set the selection angle. So if I select one polygon, then all of the polygons that have like 0 degree change next to the polygon next to it, then it will select it also. So I know it was not a good explanation, but you know, just try and experiment. As you can see, this polygon and this polygon doesn't have any angle change, or just really slight angle change, and then this polygon and this polygon doesn't have too much angle change. So if I select this and click, then all of these polygons will be selected because between them there are no planar changes. Okay, and you can increase like the angle that it's you know, selecting. So you can say 45-degree angles and it will select all of that. I never use this, don't know what they are. There is the OpenUV editor, which we will use. which will bring up the UVs for this character. So you just click it and then it will open up the unfolded 2D version of the 3D geometry. Okay, so yes, let's say I want to unwrap this part here. I just click quick planner here, very hard to pronounce, and then you know it's now unfolded. There you go. It's now in the 2D space, just the way as you can see here it is, and it's exactly the same here. What planner is basically, it generates a projection. It's hard to see from this angle, but can you see this orange or yellow thing here? This is the planner projection, and what it means is basically from that angle, from this plane, the software will project the whole model into the 2D space. So as you can see, it's the similar angle. We try and copy the planar angle, and then we can see it how it was projected here. You can reset the UVs and you can change to another channel, but it's not we're not going to use that now. And basically these are all the tools that I used in the making or the UVing of this character, at least here. And there is also like peeling, which are useful to know, which you can do it like, let's select the front side of this character here, and then we can hit this bag like button pelt map, and that will bring the selection into a pelting thing, which is basically the program or 3dsmax will start pulling the outer vertices of this UV to a sphere. So if I hit start pelt, then you know it will stretch it out. So that's useful also for some cases, just good that if you know about it. The next section we will talk about this editor here, but these are the basic selections and the way to bring the 3D geometry into the 2D space. So let's discuss what the UV editor holds for us. So click open UV editor, and then we have the character here flattened out, and let's walk through some of the tools here. Let's say I want to unwrap this part, so grow a selection here, hit quick planner, and then we have it here. This thick gray line represents our UV space. So if when you unfold the character you want to stay inside this square, okay? Because 3dsmax will only project textures here, or by default I think. So, but you know, there are some stuff that you can use here, but at first you just want to stay inside this square. Later you can experiment with what happens if you go outside. So let's see here. Go to vertex mode. It's the same thing. As you can see here, it changes and it changes here. So if I select the vertices here, I can make them flat with this button. As you can see, they will flatten out. It's not that visible, but here they are flattened on this axis. I think it's Y axis or X axis, whatever. And you can do it also like this with the button below. And also there is an option, if you select this ring and then you hit the loop, so you select all of these parallel edges, then if you hold down this button you can select the other option here, which will, you know, make all of these edges flattened out and parallel. Can you see? And of course you have the same thing here. Just hit ring, hit loop. These are the buttons for it. This is the loop and this is the ring. we have selected all of this, and you can hold down this button, whoops, and it will scroll down the other option. And there you go, it's now flattened completely. So these are the only two things I use here. Also, if I UV this and hit this button, straighten selection, that will try and automatically do what I just did. One thing to keep in mind here is that it only works if all of the polygons are, you know, four-sided. Okay, so if we have a polygon that has a cut here, or a three-sided polygon like this, it will most likely not work, or it's very buggy, as you can see. But if you select something with, let's get this out of the way, but if you select something with, with only four-sided polygons, then it will magically make it a square. That's useful also to know. Let's see what these do here. Let's select this, create a planar selection. Let's select this separately and make a planar selection again. And as you can see, we have a seam here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a green line showing that there is a seam, there is a cut in the UV space. And if they are, you know, connected, you can see if I select these two edges, then it will show with blue where is the, you know, the other part of this edge is. Where is it? It's here in the blue thing. And if I hit this stitch button, then it will stitch the two pieces together, and they will not have a seam here. So there you go. You can now connect these together. I don't really use these. And here you have the pack button, which is basically, I have all these separate UV islands now in my editor. If I select all of them and hit this, it will automatically pack them inside our thick gray line. It's pretty useful to have a first pass on how your UV islands will be spread out in the UV editor, but generally you really want to just go through it with your own hands to make it more efficient, because it will leave a lot of open spaces most of the time. Here in the bottom side you have vertex, edge and polygon, but if you click this or turn this option on, then you can, you know, select UV islands only by one click. So if it's not turned on, I'm selecting polygons, but if I turn it on, it will select the element or the UV island. You have the same thing, growing selection, and if you switch to edge mode, you can also select loops. The difference between hitting loop inside the UV editor is that it will only go up to the seam, okay? And it will not continue, even though in 3D it's a continuous loop, but it will not continue because it's the end of this UV island. But if I go here and select this edge and click UV here, then it will go all the way around. That's useful to know also. And the main thing I use basically is here in the tools drop down we have relax. If you hit it, then it will bring up this relax window. I always select the polygon angles from the drop down, and what it is basically it tries to relax what you did based on the angles of the polygons. So let's, you know, select this quickly. Whoops. Select it from the front view. And let's do a quick unfold. So hitting quick planar, it brings it into UV space. I'm gonna cut a seam here to the bottom side. You can hit the loop button, and then here if you click with your right mouse button you have break which will basically create a seam where you have your edges selected. So as you can see, it was white before and now it's green, meaning that they are now separate in the UV space. So I use break from all of this. I only use break or move, rotate and scale, and that's it basically. I switch to polygon mode, select them and go back to my relax thing, select the polygon angles, and if now I hit relax, then 3dsmax will, as you can see, try and, based on the angles of the polygons next to each other, try and unfold all of these polygons and flatten them into 2D space. So that's basically the main tool that you want to use when you're UVing. And if you see, or check, what the fuck, if you see now, I undid the cut I made here, so it's now one piece of UV and there is no seam. Then 3dsmax cannot unfold it because there is no there is no seam that can be broken or unfolded from. So yep, that didn't make any sense, but let's hope that you guys get it. So those are basically the tools I use, and there is one more thing here which you want to know about. This is render UV template. What it is basically, if you click it, you have this option to give the resolution of the texture here, and then just hit render UV template and it will create an image of your UV, which will come in handy later on in Photoshop or something if you want to see what you did or where the UVs are. Yep, and also there is some options here like weld and target weld, which is basically the same thing I showed you with the stitching thing. If I quickly grab these polygons and use the freeform gizmo to scale it down, or maybe just the scale thing, and then move it here, we can switch to vertex mode quickly and then use target weld to find the blue thing. So its soulmate is waiting for him to connect, and there we go, they are now connected, forever in love. And there we go, and now we saw them together. We can select all of them and just hit relax with the polygon angles. You can increase the intensity of the relaxation with this one here, and there you go, it's now unfolded. So this is basically what I do over and over again when I'm UVing, just selecting parts of the geometry, hitting quick planner, and then it will go to the 2D space, and I rotate it a bit, see where I can put seams where they are not really visible, like just selecting this leg or this strap here, and I now see that there is no seam that I can unfold with. So I select here, make an edge loop, break it up, and now if I hit relax on it, then it will unfold most of the time. It's good that it's now bugged, because this is not what you want to see here most of the time, but 3dsmax sometimes gets into trouble with unfolding, but then you can change this rollout to edge mode and then hit start relax that way, and then it will start spinning. It's really good to see. But as you can see, now it's unstuck. So if I change back to polygon angles again and hit relax, then now it's the proper unfolded version that I wanted to see. So if anytime it kind of gets stuck and you're 100% certain that it should unfold properly, then you can try and hit edge first and then do it again. So here we have it stuck. Just change it to edge and polygon, and there you go, it's unfolded. So this is basically the procedure of UVing, and these are all the tools that I'm using. You will see in the sped up video that I only click these buttons, so I think it's time to jump in and UV this whole character up or down. Yeah. So let's jump in and use the tools that we learned in the first part of this video and see what we can do with this character and how we can unfold it. First, I'm just gonna click around a bunch, not doing anything useful or productive. But yeah, it's part of the process always, just moving around in the 3D space, not doing anything. It's part of the job, so you should also try and exercise this muscle. And here I'm demonstrating how to do it. Clicking, rotating, not really doing that much, and you know, just getting paid. That's what happens sometimes. So let's start and focus more a bit on UVing. Probably I will start and UV the knife first. And there we go. Most of the time I delete one side of the model which I don't want to use, like here. I'm gonna delete one side because I know I'm just gonna paint one of the sides and mirror it onto the other, because you will not be able to see both sides at the same time. So it's enough to just texture and UV one of the sides of this. I don't know what it's called. It's the thing that you put the knife into. So deleting one side of the knife, delete, adding UV, hitting the quick planner thing, do it again, hit relax, and there it is, it's UV'd out. Again, the knife is going to be symmetrical, so I don't want to UV the two sides separately. Just UV one side, and then I will, you know, mirror the texture over, or the model over, and by doing that, the texture will be mirrored also. Here, just selecting again the whole thing, hitting relax, and basically the gun was done by doing that. I'm just gonna separate this handle here, so the shape and silhouette of the UV islands are more square. This is something that it's a good thing to aim for, it's a good rule of thumb. Try and make UV islands as rectangular as you can, because that will make it much more easier to pack them later on if they have a square or a rectangular silhouette. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. And by separating that handle, it will become two rectangles instead of one L shape. So it will be much easier to pack. Also, it's a good idea to try and hide seams as much as you can by, thinking through where you can put the seams, where the player will not go that much. Here I just select a few edges, cut them, and relax the thing. Front side of the flask, separate it from the back side and the bottom side, and relax them each separately. Making it more rectangular by flattening the edges out, which I showed you in the first video. But sometimes, you have to make seams in the middle of geometry in order to avoid stretching and everything. So it's not deadly to do this. It's not a sin. It happens sometimes, but if you can, avoid putting seams in visible places. So there you go. The holster is quickly UV'd out also. And as you can see now that I apply the symmetry modifier to them, that will result in that the other side of the geometry uses the same UV space as the original side. So that means if I paint something on one side, then it will show up in the other, and it's really easy because it will save you a lot of texture space and time. Here I just quickly select the bottom side of the palm by quickly selecting a few polygons, then hitting Grow Selection and select some of the polygons that I missed, and then hit Quick Planner. There you go. Hit Relax, wait a bit, and then quickly and manually fix the fingers or the area between the fingers. And this is one example where I will have some stretching in between the fingers, but that's not a big deal because the player will rarely see between the fingers, and even if they do, it will be most likely in shadow, and in between the fingers there won't be any detail that, you know, needs too much texture space. So it's okay to have it a bit stretched there. So yep, trying fixing the thumb here, and as you can see, just manually move the vertices around. After a while you will kind of have a feel for what you can get away with or what you cannot get away with, but you know, it just comes with practice. It's not something that I can, you know, just tell you how to do. By time you will get more used to UVing, and you will develop your own, you know, methods and own way of working. So that's the hand UV'd up. Just gonna move to the Pip-Boy quickly, fix this area up because that will not be visible anytime, so I deleted half of the geometry quickly. And then cylindrical shapes are basically just select one loop on one of the sides and cut it, and then if you hit relax it will unfold correctly, like here. As you can see, I just made one seam on one side and it's now unfolded. Here it's the same thing. Select one part of the geometry, hit Quick Planner, and then relax it. There you go. The top side, one side, break and relax, and it's done. Okay, so cylinder shapes are pretty easy to UV. The box part of this Pip-Boy was kinda weird and complicated, or unexpectedly complicated, I would say. But you know, just try and improvise what you will do with it, and try and keep in mind the basic rules that hide the seams and make it as square as you can. Here we have it pretty selected and then quickly plannered it. And here I decided to cut one side and relax it that way. It resulted in a pretty weird UV island, but it's okay to sometimes have it like that. It's not a big problem. And as I said earlier, most likely you will UV your own models, so you will just make UVs after a while that you like to use and you are familiar and used to using. So it's a really horrible thing to work on somebody else's model and with somebody else's UVs, because different people have different logic and they set up their UV space differently, and you cannot find anything, and it's stretches on places that you wouldn't stretch it. So it's a cruel game. It's a really cruel game, but you know, you will in time have your own style and own way of working. But you know, just repetition here again, hitting Quick Planner and relax, trying and avoiding stretching as much as possible, hiding the seams as much as possible, and making the silhouettes of the separate UV islands as square as possible. These are basically the three things that you want to keep in mind when UVing. Most of the time, firstly, I just UV everything down, UV everything, and then attach the whole model together. Here you can see that I kept all of the geometries separate and all of the objects separate, and that way I'm not getting confused on what I'm UVing or what's happening in the UV editor. I just, you know, quickly do my thing and I don't know, I just lost my train of thought, but whatever, we'll just continue with the commentary like nothing happened. So yeah, just separately UV them up, and after I'm finished, I'm just gonna attach them together. Like here, it's a separate object, quickly jump in and struggle with selecting polygons after 10 plus years in the industry. Just, okay, it happens to the best of us. And then quick planner, cut and relax. There it is, selecting the inside faces, quick planner, make a cut, relax. There, select the outside, cut, and you can guess it, relax. And there you go, the inside, quickly planner it, and the bottom the same thing. So cylindrical shapes are pretty easy to UV, and there you go, the bug I mentioned, but I have to fix it manually. There you go, selecting the vertices, hit relax, and it's now fixed. And now we can make it more square by hitting the magic button I showed you in the first part, and that way it will be more easy to pack and easier to paint also. Just make sure that the edges and the distance of the polygons are the same as on your model. So sometimes this magic button messes up the distances, but it's pretty easy and quick to fix it. So there we go. I think everything is UV'd. No? Planner, break and relax. Again, there you go. UV'd the forearm here, and then the upper arm, the same thing. It's a cylindrical shape. You can break one side, hit relax, and that's it. It's really easy. I'm not sure if I UV'd this one already or not, but let's see what will happen next. Yeah, I decided to make the chest asymmetrical because there will be a number on the back, so numbers are pretty tricky to do without asymmetry. So number 13 is something that we cannot write if the UV space is not unique. So as you can see, front side, back side, and just relax them, fix the issues manually, and then that's it basically. It's a unique thing, or I mean a unique piece of UV. I will want to make that area, because of the folding and everything, make that area unique. You want to really think about what you will texture and what you will do after you UV the thing. So maybe folding on a chest piece or on the chest is something that you want to do it uniquely, because it will look weird if it's symmetrically painted, the folding on the chest. So, or on the pullover or on a t-shirt. So just try and think ahead, and of course that will, you know, by time you will get more used to what did you, or what gave you trouble in the past, and the next time you UV the next character, then you will remember, oh, last time I did this, then it was hard to paint, so this time I'm gonna do it differently and avoid the same mistake I did before. So yeah, that's something basically you will just have to learn with trial and error, and figuring out how you like to work will come with time. But these are the basic things when you're UVing. Is sorry, let me grab some water. So by time and practice you will get better with this, but it's actually a pretty easy thing to do once you get used to it and the mindset of it, and also yeah, it's relaxing and chill. You can listen to podcasts or whatever, because it's not too creative here. Just trying and keeping in mind the rules, like hiding the seams as much as possible, keeping it square as much as possible, flatten the edges as much as you can, and avoid stretching, basically. These are rules I just made up, but I think those are pretty accurate. Here I flattened the middle part of the face and then hit relax on the vertices that are not in the mirror line. That way all of it will snap there and will be easily modified later on. So this is how I like to UV faces most of the time. There will be some stretching, of course, because on faces it's kinda unavoidable to have stretching, but most of the time in the industry people UV faces like this, so because it's easy to paint and easy to modify the model later, so I'm doing it also like that. Here just separate the front part of this hair, remove it or break it from the geometry, and then hit relax on the hair. There you go, and it's instantly paintable. Now I'm making a break in the inside of the hair and relaxing it afterwards like that, and there you go, it's done. And I believe we are getting close to finishing up the UVs, I believe, or maybe not. But after I'm finished here, I attach all the geometries together and then hit the packing button that I talked about. That will result in an even distribution of UV spaces. You can see in the checker here, everything has the same size of checker or size of black and white squares attached to it. And that means that all of the geometry uses the same pixel rate. So if I apply an image, a texture to this model, then everything will have the same image quality, same texture resolution. That's an important thing to keep in mind, because you can always increase resolution of parts by scaling them up in the UV editor. You will see me later do it, and we will get back to this subject. But here I'm checking the whole model where I can see the squares stretching. As you can see around the eye, the squares started stretching really weirdly, and that will be troublesome to paint and texture later on. So I decided to fix it manually by, quickly make a planar selection for the eye and scaling it down back into the socket, and then manually stitch it up with the target weld in vertex mode that we talked in the first part of this video. Or maybe, yeah, I'm just selecting and hitting weld. It's the same thing basically as the target weld. So that's useful to do for me, because I was not sure how much stretching I want to do there. Of course, as I said, there will be always some stretching with the face, but I'm just trying to minimize the damages here. But in the end, when I'm painting this texture up in 3D Code, there weren't any problems here or with the, with the stretching. So I think we are getting close to finishing up the UVing. I mean, just the first pass. But as you can see, now I'm scaling up some of the areas. Here I want to make the eye bigger to make it have more texture resolution and pixel resolution, because the face will maybe have close-up shots, so we want to have it more, give it more texture resolution. Also, I'm scaling down like the bottom side of the feet or the boots or the inside of the eyes, or here the holster, the inside, just scale it down, or the inside of the knife bag because that will not need any pixels there, because we will never see the inside of the holster in a close-up shot. So I scaled those down, and that will result in giving those areas less texture resolution. So here, just quickly making the face asymmetrical, and that will be, so now I'm able to paint on both of the sides uniquely. So if I paint a scar on one side of the face, it will not show up on the other side, because we have a unique texture space for that. And now packing. Now that we have the whole model unfolded, we can pack the UV islands into that thick gray line that I talked about. And because we try and focus more on making it square, we can kind of pack it easily, more easily. So here I always start out when packing with the biggest pieces of UV islands. So that will be like kind of helpful to pack more efficiently. So by getting the biggest shapes down first, I can figure out where goes what, and then the remaining spaces I can fill up with the smaller pieces of UV islands. So here we go. There's like big, middle, and small sized UV things. I'm kinda done here with the middle and big sized UV chunks. As you can see, I'm trying to pack them closely, but not too closely, because in some engines you can run into problems. It's a thing called MIP mapping. You'll have to look it up. I'm not even going to try and explain it now. But the main thing you want to learn about or know about that is basically in some engines you want to have more space in between the UV islands. So here, as you can see, for example, on the bottom there are the belts and the pieces of UV islands for the belts. Those are packed pretty closely, and that could cause some trouble in some of the engines, but not today. I mean, not with the engine that I'm going to put this in. But so that's something just to keep in mind or look up, but just try and have a decent space in between the islands, and then you should be fine. So there we go. I always try and make iterations of this. So I try and sip one water here, because I cannot talk anymore. So I'm always trying and make one first pass with the UVs, and then try and rearrange all the UV islands again and pack them more efficiently. And I do it a few times, and then I just say, okay, now it's done. Because after a while you will not really improve the UV that much, you will just start rearranging it over and over again. So just do some iterations after you finish it, and then you should be fine. This is the first iteration, I believe, just quickly putting everything inside the thick gray area, and after that I will make another iteration quickly. So I think I covered most of the things I want to talk about UVing, but as you can see here, it's specced. All of the things are inside the thick gray line, and we could like texture the model now, but I realized that I want to make the tie area unique, so I detach it from the model, copy it over with the mirror tool and attach it to the main geometry, attach the unwrap UV modifier again, and then just separate the two UV islands in the tie area and make them unique. So there we have it, the unique tie. And I believe I'm gonna pack the UVs again here, but this time, so there was a cut, but whatever, this time I'm trying and making everything more square, show you guys how to do it, just flattening pieces of the edge out and then relaxing it with the edge mode. And I checked the keep boundary points fixed in the relax panel, and that will result in basically if you hit relax, the bounding points will not move, or the boundary points will not move, and that's helpful in this stage of the process. So let's see another one. I'm just gonna quickly flatten this out. There you go, it's flattened, hitting relax, and then there it is. It's more square now. It's easier to match the silhouettes of the different UV islands together if they are one line. So that's also a good idea to keep in mind and practice and see what you can do with it. There are some like really neatly and tightly packed UVs in World of Warcraft. You can check them out. The original characters like the human model and everything, it's all square and very, very tightly packed. So that's something you can try and practice. Here I'm trying and seeing how far I can push the square silhouette of this area without doing too much stretching. So yeah, there it is. And as you can see, it's much more easy now to tightly pack together the UVs. So there we go, flatten the bottom side of the face and hit relax. Much better now. I mean, it's more easy to pack it now. I kinda ran out of things to say, so I will maybe zone out sometimes now, but whatever. Let's pack it again. As you can see, it's very, very easy to pack UVs if the silhouettes are square. So it's much quicker, and it's uses the texture space more efficiently. So it's really just worth the time sometimes to fix these up and make them more square. And to be honest, it will stretch a little bit, but it's not a big problem. It's not a big problem at all, because it's so unnoticeable if you do it correctly that it's the benefits are too much, or the benefits are very, very good, and it's worth the effort. Not sure about PBR or next gen stuff, how much they use this, but when you're doing hand painted stuff, it's a good thing to try and see if it works for you or not. Just keep in mind that if something stretches too much, then that's a problem, Oh, and yes, here I try to pack similar or items together that I know that belong together on the geometry. So here I pack the daggers together, or I mean the knife together and the pistol together, and they are in the same area of the UV. So when I'm painting the texture, I know if I want to modify something on the texture of the pistol, I'm gonna go to the bottom right of the bottom right corner of the texture. That's also something that's, you know, good to keep in mind, because if everything is scattered throughout the whole thing, then if you want to paint it in Photoshop, it will be pretty hard. As you can see, the hand is together also, the top side and bottom side of the hand is together, the face and the eyes are next to each other, pieces of the Pip-Boy are really close to each other, and as you can see, I keep most of the clothing in the top right corner or top left corner of this UV island. And now we're just packing, you know, the smallest pieces in between the islands. It's not the final texture and not the final UV. I'm going to make another iteration here, but not in the video. It's the same process, but it's not that interesting to watch me pack this thing 600 times. So that's it basically. If you want to check the model, you can download it from the Gumroad link below. I'm going to link it into the description, and there you can download the model and maybe the texture. I'm not sure what I will upload there, but yeah, make sure to check out the final version of it. So that's it for UVing, and I hope you learned something. If you have questions, put it in the description, or I mean the comment section or whatever, and see you guys in the texturing video.